G'day everyone, welcome to Get Lost with a Travel Guide with me, your host Ben. Today we would like to talk to George. George Maurer is all the way in the United States. We're going to talk about everything in Los Angeles. Now, if anyone's been to the United States before, they most likely have gone to LA. It's a primary hub coming from Australia in particular. Many tourists go there and we really want to learn much about LA, but George is a very interesting person. We actually met when I was guiding in Europe, and George was actually one of my passengers, which hopefully might be able to share some information if anything can somewhat recollect. Now, I think from memory, George is a very interesting person because George works in media, but also for the United States military. Is that correct, George? Would you be able to help me out on that?
It is. I work for something called the American Forces Radio Network, and I have been in that job for about 30 years now, 22 in uniform, and then the last 9 or so as a civilian. So I've been doing it for a long time. And as far as our tour in Europe that you took us through, you did a great job. I mean, it was a great tour. We really loved it. My wife and I really loved it. And you know, you did a lot of neat little things, like if I remember correctly, and it's been a few years since we've already taken this tour, but there was like one bus stop or train stop or place we had to come back to, and I think it was called Hoopendorf, and you repeated the name Hoopendorf like 4 or 5 times because it was kind of funny to say, but you know what? I remembered it, and I remember it to this day. You know, and he did a lot of neat little things like that. And so it was a good tour. So we really enjoyed it. We definitely go on another one with you. And there's no doubt about that.
So you didn't remember the Eiffel Tower or the Leaning Tower of Pisa or the Colosseum. You just remembered Hoofddorp, which I think is outside of Amsterdam.
Yeah, well, I mean, we remembered all that other stuff too, of course. But it was, but it was also a lot of little things that you guys did that helped kind of make it special. Although I'm still a little mad at you because you did this like Pisa thing, and I thought my Pisa photo was the best one, but you selected somebody else to win it. So I'm still holding a grudge on that one, but I'll get over it eventually,
Oh yeah, we have a fun competition. I mean, if you've ever been Leaning Tower of Pisa before, there's not much there. You just want to look at the actual tower itself, click, take the selfie, and out you go. If you're lucky, get a gelato. That's basically the highlight of that. So you got to make it fun. You got to make it exciting. But that's what tour guides. It
was a great tour.
What we do. Yeah,
it was a great tour. It really was. So. But
on my trips, I often find people that might be the first time on a tour, but it's not the case for you. Like I think from memory, and especially with your military background, you might have lived in many parts of the United States. I really want to talk to LA because that's where your specialty from, and that's what the podcast is going to be about. But where else has the military taken you to?
Well, my first tour was in Anchorage, Alaska, and then we moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Then I moved to Seoul, Korea. Then from Korea to California, then from California to the Portuguese Azores, then from the Portuguese Azores back to California, then from California to Japan, then Washington, D.C., and then back to California. So we've been kind of all over the place. And our drive, we actually drove from Anchorage, Alaska to New Jersey, which for those who are less than familiar with the layout of the United States, New Jersey is on the eastern seaboard right below New York City, right next to New York City. So we drove from Alaska all the way to the Atlantic Ocean on our east coast, and then back about maybe 3/4 of the way back across the country to New Mexico. And New Mexico, it's like New Mexico, Arizona, California. So we almost drove across the country and back to the West Coast. That was about a 30-day drive. That was a haul. But it was fun because what you do is you stop off and you visit people that you haven't seen in a long time. Old friends, and you kind of hang out with them for a day or two, and then you're back on the road, and then you stop off at the next one, and you see family, and it's always a good.
That's a terrific way to be able to see the United States if you're a local, if you have those friends, if you have some family.
It helps.
But if you're not a local, if you're an Australian like myself or an international person you're trying to pass through,
Right.
it's going to be a challenging experience. But what I do love about you is you've certainly got what it's like to live abroad, what it's like to move around. And I think you've certainly experienced a lot of the world outside what I'd call the Los Angeles bubble. But can you just clarify, like, because I've been to LA about 4 times.
Okay.
It's huge. I can't even remember the population. It's like 100 million. It's like 20 million or something like that, which is like nearly the population of Australia.
Right.
Condensed, I think like there's the economy of California is just, it's like a top 10 in the world or something like that. It's something crazy.
Yeah. The state of California supposedly feeds about 25% of the world. And if it was a country of its own, I forget what it was. It'd be like number 11 as far as gross national product. It would be the 11th largest economy in the world, or something like that. It's a big boy, that's for sure.
And this is your home, but because it's such a large area, like Los Angeles, obviously within California, whereabouts in LA are you? Or is it even LA? It's
yeah.
Too big.
I actually live in a town called Temecula, which is outside of Los Angeles. We're about 70 miles away from LAX, which is the main airport. So the area that I live in is called the Inland Empire, and which is a stupid name, but I didn't make it up, so I try not to use it. But it's what it is. But you have Los Angeles. I know this is kind of backwards, but you've got Los Angeles, and then Riverside. And then Temecula is down here, and then San Diego is down here. And
right, so
actually,
is that on the outskirts, or is that like in the downtown area?
we're 60 miles away from San Diego, 70 miles away from LAX.
All right. So I looked. You told me this prior to the podcast, which I do appreciate. I Googled it, and it just looks like this huge metropolitan area.
It is
all of LA. So I'm like, oh, yeah, you're definitely from LA, but it just gives you a scope. You're like 60 miles out from like I don't even know where the downtown area is. Like, it's like, what is the downtown area of LA? I can't even.
That's not an easy. Well, it is an easy question to answer, but it's like you said, Los Angeles is massive, and if you're going to be coming to visit LA, you absolutely need to rent a car. Do not count on public transportation to get you around. But the main part of LA is you got like downtown, and actually downtown, like most places have a downtown, that's kind of the center of everything.
Well, we don't call it downtown as well. We actually.
Well, that's where you're going to find all like the government. Central
CBD.
Business District is exactly right. But most of the touristy areas are outside of that main downtown area. So like if you want to go to Hollywood or to Venice Beach or up to Malibu or, to Anaheim to go to Disneyland, you're not going to go anywhere near downtown for the most part. And at night, downtown clears out to the point where you can see coyotes running around, eating out of trash cans and eating whatever they can find. Pets, you got to be careful about if you let your cat out at night, a coyote may get it, kind of thing.
Are they any dangers to humans?
Not really. I've walked up on a couple of them on trails, and they'll generally turn and run away.
But if you got your little pet chihuahua with you, a little cat or something.
If you got your little pet chihuahua with you, they generally run away, but I have heard stories of them coming in and snatching the little pet chihuahua basically right off the end of the leash and running away with it. So it's they're pretty aggressive predators, but you're from Australia. I don't need to tell you about aggressive animals. That's for sure.
It's just, we got it all.
Yes, you do.
We thrive on pain. I don't know what it is. But what I do have, mate, I've got some short, sharp, fast, hopefully very interesting, especially if you want to learn about Los Angeles, because people go to LA, people go there, ask their friends, ask their travel agent, people trying to sell them something, people trying to give biased opinions or unbiased opinions. We've got George here. George is well educated. Are you educated? I'm pretty sure you are. We're certainly well traveled.
I graduated 3rd grade when I was 17, so I'm good, man.
That'll do. Good. But you're a local. You have native knowledge, which to me is gold. You can give unbiased content, which a big value add. So So what have I have prepared some questions here. So
Okay.
love your opinion, love your thoughts on it. So the first question, number one, I've only got 8 of them. Maybe I'll make up some more as we go, but something you've learned about Los Angeles the hard way.
Ooh, the never, ever, ever drive a stick shift in Los Angeles. I
Which is
had
a stick shift is
a
a manual car. Okay,
manual car, correct?
speak
Because
American.
you get stuck on those highways and it's for 3-4 hours at a time sometimes. Now, I like I said, I live 70 miles away from LAX, but that can easily be a 3-hour drive each way, and it happens
Jeez.
very quickly. So I had a stick shift for one of my tours here, one of my times living here. And I vowed that I would never drive another stick shift. As much as I love driving them, I have always owned a automatic transmission from now. Although the one I have now, I can kind of do like an auto shift thing, but do not own a stick shift in Los Angeles ever.
So there's the point right there. So if you're going to travel to LA, hire an automatic. And as you said, the public transportation is not that great. So you got to hire a car. So
It's so big, and they
yeah,
keep
yeah,
trying to make trains and everything. And there's cities where it works great. New York, Seoul, Tokyo, but they're all pretty compact places and you can get around. Washington, D.C., but LA is just so spread out. You need a car. You need
yeah,
private
yeah.
transportation, definitely.
100%. Yeah, by my experience, I concur. And yeah, because yeah, been to New York and yeah, it's amazing public transport. Get to London's the same,
Yes,
Paris the same, and that same type of mindset you apply it to LA. It's like, oh, that's going to be one hell of a metro system if that's going to be in
right.
place.
But like New York City is so compact,
Mm.
I mean, you just don't have that here. You just don't.
All right. So the next question, number 2, what is Los Angeles' best kept secret?
Ooh, best kept secret. Well, um,
What do you guys
I
do
would
better than
say,
anyone else? Maybe.
there's a couple of markets in town, like the original farmers market, which is actually kind of near downtown, and then there's the main. Oh boy, I can't believe I can't remember the name of this, but anyway, the farmers market, the original farmers market in town. Okay, if you want to try as many cuisines as possible in one place, that's the place to go. They've got shops, you got a guy, all he sells is pickles. You got another guy, all he sells is, popcorn, different kinds of popcorn. You got a guy over there. And you've got, Cuban restaurants and Mexican restaurants and Thai and Filipino and Chinese and Japanese. And one of the challenges with LA is if you want to do a lot, it takes a long time to get everywhere. But going to like this farmer's market, this enables you to see and taste and try a lot of things in one very compact, neat little place.
You're gonna have to try and find the name of this place. If it does pop in your mind, or I'll write it in the comments or something a bit later on when we get it. Be able to do it at the end of the podcast. But
You know what? It's called the Original Farmers Market. That's absolutely
how
one
big
of
is
them.
this market? I mean, because the reason why I'm asking is Australia, pound for pound, might be able to. It's a very popular activity in Australia, which like locals love to do that here.
Right,
Is there
right.
anything about the? I mean, there's 20 odd million people in LA. I can imagine what's the size of this.
It is very big, but I wouldn't call it massive. However, you can spend a whole day there just exploring all the beauty shops, the lotions. I mean, you name it, they've got a shop there for it. So you can easily spend a full day there. No doubt
Does
about it.
tourists go there? Is this more a locals hang
Absolutely,
out?
absolutely. But it's also where a lot of locals go.
Sure. Bit of a
And
mishmash.
that's kind of what you're looking for, is you're kind of looking for where those locals go. And 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 there's another one, and if you give me, well, I don't want to take time while we're talking.
It's all good.
I'll
We'll
send you
post
the
it in the
name.
comments as soon as we get the name. We
Exactly.
go boom, there it is.
Exactly. And this other place, the other one is up near Hollywood. But it's the same sort of thing. It's just basically restaurants and food booths and shops and this and that and everything.
Actually, that's something I did not prepare in one of my questions, love, because I spent a week in LA and Hollywood.
Right.
Because when I was Googling places, I'm like, I don't know where to stay. This place is enormous. Hollywood, I've heard of that place. That sounds like a hoot. And then I'm walking
Right.
down the street and I'm
And it's
thinking,
not.
what the hell have I been doing?
Not.
What? Jesus.
It's not.
Whoa, like, but to my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong. I think a lot of people try to go there and create the Hollywood dream or try to make that dream for themselves.
Right.
False. They might invest too hard, or they didn't get the work-life balance correct, and they basically could end up on the street. So I think there's real high levels of unemployment.
There's very high levels of homeless there. If you want to go to the Hollywood Walk of Fame with the stars on the ground, it smells like urine. And some people lay on the ground and, they get their picture taken next to, Jack Nicholson or whatever. I'm like, yeah, you smell like piss now. Congratulations. I hope it was worth it, And so, I mean, if you want to check it out, that's cool. But I found it very underwhelming. The other thing in Hollywood is you're probably not going to see any Hollywood stars walking around. It's just not what they do. And the other thing is you're going to see a lot of Hollywood maps of the stars. Biggest scam going,
What's a scam? Why is that a scam?
Because the stars maybe never lived there or perhaps owned that home 25 years ago. Even the tours that you go on. Now, the tours, they might show you some historic stuff and have some interesting stories, but that's where Jennifer Aniston lives. That's where Will Ferrell lives. No, they don't.
Hang on a minute. Are you saying us tour guides are making up stories? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Will Ferrell may have owned that house at one time, but he probably hasn't lived there for 25 years.
Wow. So
it's a scam. It's all a scam.
So you can go on there and then just call bullshit to the tour guide.
Now the tours themselves are more reliable than the maps. The maps are just that they're a complete scam. Wow. Maybe the tours that you go on are maybe half of a scam. Maybe the guy still lives there. Maybe the star doesn't anymore. Maybe they never live there. There's no U.S. Department of Hollywood tours department checking to make sure the information is correct.
Well, actually, a fun fact for the listeners. So how to find out good guides, if they work good or not. So there's certain other countries where you need to be licensed. You actually need to have formal accreditation for this. In Australia, you don't. And in Europe, you don't. And in the United States, I don't think you do. But what you do have is reviews. So if you are a passenger, if you are a guest on a trip, and you think your tour guide is completely full of shit, Google it, take some notes, and just sort of fact check it for your own, and then write it in the reviews. And guides like that generally don't last.
And you know what? And there may be some of those homes where that's an accurate place where that star lived, and maybe they even currently live there. You're going to see some beautiful homes, but the one thing about those tours is you're going to get probably a pretty decent history lesson for Hollywood. And there is definitely some interesting historical things about Hollywood, Sunset Strip and, Whiskey a Go-Go and then, the Doors and, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm not saying their tours are a complete waste of time, but just because they say, somebody lives somewhere doesn't necessarily mean they live there right now.
But
you'll see some beautiful homes though,
You got to check it out. Like it's something that I think my recommendation is check it out, spend a day or half a day. Don't do what I did and spend a bloody week there. Don't use that as a base. Jesus, that's like, avoid that.
You probably don't want to spend a week in Hollywood. That's for sure. I would spend probably a day there, maybe.
Oh my goodness. I tell you what thing, go to I just walked past the main boulevard, the Hollywood Boulevard, I think it's called.
Uh-huh.
And it's got the flagship of Scientology there. Me being the curious personality, I went in there, not that I'm really religious or scientific, but I just wanted to figure out, this is the flagship. I went in there and spent about half a day. It was a good time. And if you're interested, message me. I'll tell you that story another time.
Did they kidnap you?
No, they were really
Okay, that's
lovely.
good.
They were lovely. I had a great time. They were educational. They didn't hard sell me anything.
They have out here where I live is they've got a compound and they've got this giant ship, wooden sailing ship kind of thing. And they have a big, beautiful home that's built for L. Ron Hubbard for his return to Earth. and basically people go live out there, and basically you hand over everything to them and you get paid like 15 cents a day or something stupid like that. And if you misbehave, you get in trouble. And they put you in, I don't know what the punishments are, but it can't be pleasant. So they have Scientology, they're a bunch of weirdos. It's definitely an interesting group of folks. I would imagine what you found in their thing was probably pretty interesting.
Well, I was about to say,
well,
George,
what did you find?
I was going to say, why don't you tell me what you really think about it? But yeah, I think.
What was the one most interesting thing you found in the Scientology building?
Well, it's like anything in life, people get opinions about things and it misguides your perception. You think, I'm like, traveler mindset, I'm going to go for this, figure it out myself. So obviously I heard stories about, and you look at the history of Scientology. Yes, he's a science fiction writer. So right. I'm going in there thinking, oh, you beauty, is it a scam? Yeah, probably. But the people that were in there really nice, and I didn't realize they actually donated a lot to charity and actually had a part of their missions or goals was to give back.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, many organizations don't have that. They're just purely profit driven.
Very true.
At least they're trying to make a bit of a difference. And I thought they didn't hard sell me anything. Maybe I was a bit of a tough biscuit going in there. Don't know. But I walked out thinking I had a good time.
They're a pretty nice group of people. Well, you know what? I think I agree with you that the fact that they're trying to make a difference does count for something. Yeah, I do agree with that.
I only learned that as I walked in there. Did I look into it and follow it up? No, I didn't. But
you know what? I bet you that if they say they're doing it, I bet you they probably are. Well, so I would give them the benefit of the doubt.
Well, it was a good travel LA experience nonetheless. Speaking of some more questions.
Okay.
All right. So we're up to number 4. So like I said, I've only prepared 8. If you were president and were granted $1 billion to be able to spend on Los Angeles, and you could do anything with that billion, you're the president, you're bound by nothing, you can make it happen, and what would you do with Los Angeles? You could make a change.
I suppose I would try to build a community or a housing community for the homeless, give them a place to go. I guess that's what I would probably do. It's the homeless problem in California has gotten pretty rough. It's expensive to live out here. And, you out in America, they're talking about $15 for minimum wage, but, and that's stressful for the business owners. That a lot of them, they can't really sustain that with their businesses. But the other thing is, on $15 an hour, you can't survive in LA. You can't, but it's cheaper than San Francisco. My son and his fiance, he's a cinematographer, and they work in the movie industry, and they went up and did a job up in San Francisco, and they paid $1,800 a month to rent a room from a woman, US dollar, rent a room inside of a woman's house. So she's got 3 bedrooms. She lives in one, and she's renting out one of those. And it cost $1,800 a month. And this was a couple of years ago. So it's probably $2,200 a month now. And so it's very expensive to live here. Now, I do know Australia, you certainly have your high cost areas as well. If I'm correct, it's on the East Coast where it's more expensive. Out on the West, it's cheaper. Is that correct?
That is right. Australia is pound for pound, like on a global scale, very similar to the United States, but you get wealthy areas and you get your lower socioeconomic areas.
Of course.
But you're right. However, I think Australia, I'm not the best person to explain this, but I think Australia has a better balance. Like there's more money from the government given back to help out, programs and assistance to people that are struggling and don't have that sort of financial or family or friend aid to be able to support them. As you said, like if you're earning minimum wage here and you don't have a mum and dad or a friend's house to stay at,
Sure.
you're going to struggle. But there is a lot of tax benefits to balance that out. So I guess maybe that's for LA. I don't know how the government works, but it seems, as you said, like there's a significant homelessness problem there.
Yeah.
But so that is something of the concern if someone is going to travel to LA.
Yeah. And well, the thing is I do know we had a homeless encampment out here, and they decided to break it up because it was becoming an issue. And they came in, the cops went in and they said, okay, anyone who wants help, we'll give you a place to live. We'll put you into a program where you can get off of drugs or alcohol or whatever issue brought you to this place in your life. We can help you. And about 1/3, 2/3 took the help. I hear those birds that you were talking about. But
yeah.
1/3.
So I better explain that. If anyone who can listen to that, hear that chirp, that's what you call the noisy miner. And they're called noisy for a reason. They're just this monotone. Beep, 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 beep. So it's not feedback. It's actually a bird near my window right now.
Adds a little ambience. So,
this is a beautiful studio that we're in. Yes.
Yeah. It adds character to the recording. So, but basically 1/3 were not interested in getting any help. So if I were to build a community like that in Los Angeles, probably 2/3 would probably ask for help, but probably 1/3 would probably not be interested at all. And you can only help people who want to be helped. You can
lead a
horse
to
water, but can't. Yeah. There you go. Can't make a train.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what I would do.
I would have thought, probably transport, but I think, that because when I prepared these questions, I thought probably transport would help it out. But the homelessness, that sort of blew me away when I can't remember which parts of LA, like it was somewhat sporadic, you hit pockets of mansions up in the hills and then you go, 10, 20 kilometers down different section. You're like, this is like,
if even that far. Right. And then you see a little homeless
like
under the bridges or whatever.
You don't really get that in many parts of the United States, but like LA, it's this mishmash of like, how is this? It's like, would I want to live in LA? No offense. No. But is it, I think, a great place to experience like just the sheer vastness of that.
Yeah. But that's why, my job is out here too. But would I live in LA? No, I wouldn't. If I worked in LA, I don't even know if I would take a job.
That's why you live. I mean, I think you live on somewhat of the outskirts of LA, but that's what I mean. You're happy to reside in the outskirts and then travel.
I am much happier to reside out here than in the city. So because I live in a house out in Temecula that I could never afford to live in if it was in Los Angeles. It would cost probably twice what my house value is here.
All right, got a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
If Steve Irwin were alive, the crocodile hunter, and he visited LA right now,
okay,
what would he say?
Stop smoking that weed. I'm just trying to walk down the street. I think that's what he would say.
That's right. Isn't like marijuana being legalized?
Put that damn bong down. I'm just trying to get from A to B, I think that's what he would say.
Oh, wouldn't you say pass it along? I mean, it's from Queensland. Many of them smoke it up in there.
And maybe that would have been his choice. Hey, pass it over here and let's have a good time.
Is that right? Like, is marijuana easy to get now in LA? Is it legalized or something?
It's I think so. I mean, I don't know the exact rules, but it doesn't take much to get it. And you find there's cannabis shops everywhere, especially in certain areas, like Venice Beach, for example. There's cannabis shops everywhere along the beach. So, and when you walk along the beach, they got this little boardwalk where, a lot of tourists go, and you know, and there's a guy smoking a bowl, and there's a guy smoking a joint, and there's a guy smoking this, and the other. But if he's got a beer in his hand, forget about it. You're arrested. You're, you know, under arrest. Get out of here.
Oh
But
man,
smoking weed, no, you know, they everywhere.
that's it. Well, maybe that's what's causing all the traffic. Don't know.
Perhaps. And when we were in Amsterdam, it was raining and my glasses were fogged up. And I said to my wife, let's go find a cafe and have some coffee or something. And I looked up and saw cafe, and I walked in, and it was the wrong kind of cafe.
Or the right one, depending on what you want.
It was the wrong
So
kind of cafe.
So you don't have to go to Amsterdam
So.
to be able to get blazed up. You can actually go to LA
No,
and just get it.
in California, you can buy. There are cannabis shops basically everywhere, but like a place out here, they're around, but you don't see them everywhere, and you don't see people walking down the street smoking weed. So,
Well, a couple more questions.
Okay.
This one is a bit of a controversial one, but it is on the tip of everyone's tongue. It's the elephant in the room question: COVID. Because if you're a traveler, so if you're a traveler, you could only really go off what the government tells you, what your friends tell you, being to a destination. And everyone's very hesitant, but now things are slowly starting to open up. I don't want to talk about the actual like restrictions as such, but more, what's your general feel of the vibe of the people? Like, are people terrified? Are people saying, you better, be vaccinated? People's like, it's okay, mate. Each to their own. What's the attitude, general vibe that you're picking up at the moment? Is it a place worth visiting? Are people going to get hounded upon? What's your take?
Well, you do need, I know you don't want to talk about the rules, but you do need.
But you can Google the rules. Like, it'd be posted by the government. Yeah.
You do need a vaccine passport to get into most places, in LA especially. Out here, it's not so bad. But in LA, they definitely have a lockdown going on. And what the vibe is, there, if you walk around without a mask on, you definitely get looks.
The stink eye or the crooked eye?
A little bit of both. But I've gone into LA a couple of times to visit my son. And, I don't wear a mask out here. I don't have to. But in there, when I walk around like that, I get the look. And so they're definitely more serious about things there than we are out here. Gotcha. We're definitely kind of, there was our governor came out and said, hey, we're going to arrest you for walking around without a mask on. And then our county sheriff in America, we have, states, then counties, then cities. Our county sheriff came out and said, I'm not going to waste my manpower arresting people walking around without a mask on. And so everything kind of chilled out here after that. But in LA, they take it very seriously.
Okay. That is good to know, because we in Australia, the whole world really watches what happens in the United States to set a platform for that. You're a trend-setting nation. What can we say? So that's very interesting
the world
space
likes
to
it,
watch.
Especially
LA. Like what happens in LA resonates around the world. So it's a good space to watch. Interesting.
It does. LA, one of our, I don't know what you would call it, but probably one of our most influential exports is certainly our entertainment business. And that comes from Los Angeles. And
oh, really? I haven't heard one movie come from LA. What are you talking about?
So, but yes, LA is a very influential place, no doubt about it.
Oh yeah. All right, so we got a couple more. Let me start to wrap this up. So if someone only had a weekend coming into LA, how would you recommend their do's and don'ts? How can you maximize their time? They could be coming in from international, or they could have a stopover, because that's often a common one. Instead of just like, having 5-6 hour flight and then transferring on, maybe it's worth going, we'll spend a weekend here in LA. What could be done in that time?
Well, if you wanted to pack the most in a weekend, I hate to put it this way, but I might actually leave Los Angeles.
Don't visit.
Well, one of the most beautiful things you can do actually is take a drive up the Pacific Coast Highway. And you rent a car and you go up past you go and, check out Malibu, maybe even drive out as far as Santa Barbara. And that drive up the California coast is one of the most beautiful drives you will ever experience in your entire life. The beaches,
coincidentally, I've done that twice, and I agree.
the beaches are just gorgeous. Or I guess you could go the other way. The LA beach proper beaches, they just, I don't know, they're kind of dirty. They smell. If you're there when it starts getting dark, crime goes up quickly. The other thing you can do is maybe go down south to Orange County. You have LA County and then Orange County just beneath it. And Huntington Beach, if you want to go just hang out on a Los Angeles beach, a California beach, Huntington Beach or Newport Beach would be some good things to do. Now, if you wanted to stay in LA proper, perhaps visiting the museums. The museums in LA, they've got some fantastic museums there. But I mean, you can find museums anywhere.
I didn't know this. I mean, when you think of LA, top things pop to mind is obviously Hollywood, beaches, a lot of stuff from TV. People generally want to see. But I've never heard about museums.
The La Brea Tar Pits is a really interesting place to visit. It's a tar pit where basically you have mammoths and woolly rhinoceroses and saber-toothed tigers and for, all kinds of things for 30,000 years, walked past there, got stuck in the tar and got sucked underneath. And they were preserved very well. And they've got a very interesting museum there. Yeah.
Well, George, I've been to LA 4 times and I didn't know about that. Now I got to make number 5. Because that sounds really cool. I had no idea.
If you come out here, give me a call, but just do me a favor. Don't land in LAX and then call me and go, hey, I'm at the airport. You want to come and pick me up? As long as you don't do something like that, I'm happy to come out and visit you in LA. We'll have lunch or something. So.
I'll rent a manual car for us to drive through the traffic as well.
Don't do that.
All right. Final question about LA. Just trying to add as much value as I can to our listeners. What is the most common mistake when a tourist, I can't remember right. What's a common mistake a tourist does? They turn up, they think, okay, LA's going to be a certain thing, and then it doesn't eventuate.
Probably thinking that you're going to be able to walk down the street and run into Hollywood stars. Just, doesn't really happen. They have their little places that they go to, of course, and you may run into somebody, but the chances of you running into, I don't know, Jack Nicholson are pretty remote.
Like superstar. I met a guy actually in the Whiskey A Go-Go who is in the TV series Breaking Bad.
Okay.
So as I was mid-conversation, people was whispering in my ear going, oh, that's good, Breaking Bad. I'm like, no idea, never seen the show. Continued on so people like taking selfies. I'm like, mate, who are you? Oh, Breaking Bad. So it can happen. No, I can't even remember. I think, honestly, I still haven't even watched a show. That's how terrible I am at this.
Dean, the DEA agent, who's the brother-in-law of Walter White, the main character, he lives out here by us, out in Temecula.
So it is possible to bump into celebrities.
It's possible. It's always possible. But let's just say in all my years of walking around LA, I've never run into a famous person by walking down the sidewalk.
20 million odd people. You got to put that in perspective. The ratio to celebrities versus 20 odd million people is slim pickings right there.
Yeah, and and again, it's spread out like we talked about. And if you want to go and see things, that's fine, but it's going to take some time to see stuff. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. It may only be 20 or 30 miles away, but it's probably going to take an hour or two to drive there. It's just the way it is.
Gotcha. Well, George, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for all this sound tech. Like, I've done a few podcasts and you're the man at this. I mean, having the full equipment already set up just blew my mind before this even started. So,
well,
mate, you're a lovely guy, and I got a lot of good memories of us traveling together in Europe.
It was a great tour. And like I said, we'd love to go on another tour with you anytime. So we were very, very satisfied with our time spent with you. It was great. So
I hope my old manager watches this and takes some notes. See?
And I hope he regrets not keeping you still in his employ. So.
Even better. I'll give you the $5 over for that comment. I appreciate it.
I'll take it too. No, I'm just kidding. So
Awesome.
Anyway, if you do come out to LA, let me know ahead of time. I'll drive into the city and we'll go have lunch somewhere. I know a couple of places.
I will definitely hold you to that.
All right. Thank you, Ben. I really appreciate you inviting me on here. It was great fun. It's great talking to you again.
Appreciate it, George. Till next time, brother.
Yep. Take care.